All right, so are you ready to dive into a question that's ripped right from the headlines? Like, can a social media CEO sway an entire election?
Ooh, that is a big one.
We are going to be looking at Germany's upcoming snap election,
Okay, yeah.
and the situation is getting a little bit spicy over there.
It really does feel like we're on the edge of our seats.
So for sure.
It's traditional politics meeting online platforms head on.
Exactly. So we have two sources today for this deep dive.
Okay.
The first one's a Guardian article that lays out the political landscape in Germany and gives some different opinions from experts and, public reaction as well.
Right.
And then to see what the people are actually saying, we're going to be looking at a Reddit thread
Okay, cool.
that has a ton of different perspectives and even some personal stories.
Awesome. So we get the official word and then what's really happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes a good combo.
So Germany is heading to the polls on February 23rd.
Okay.
And Chancellor Olaf Scholz is facing, it's an interesting endorsements.
Interesting is one way to put it, yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
So during his New Year's Eve address, Scholz addressed the elephant in the room, social media.
Okay.
And he basically pleaded with voters not to let social media channel owners decide the election.
Wow.
And, his main point is that those extreme opinions that we see online, the ones that grab attention and make headlines, they thrive online.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do you think sparked this kind of desperate plea from the chancellor?
I mean, I think it has to do with Elon Musk's very public interest in German politics.
Right. He's definitely taken an interest. And he's been openly endorsing the AfD party.
The Alternative for Deutschland party.
Yes, thank you. I was hoping you would fill that in.
Of course.
They are a far-right party.
And they have been gaining support.
Steadily gaining support, yes.
And Musk hasn't exactly been subtle about his endorsement either, like calling Schultz a fool on X.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
His own social media platform.
Yeah. I mean, that raised some eyebrows for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Bold move for sure. Yeah. It's fascinating to me, though, why a tech CEO like Musk would choose to be so involved in German politics.
Right.
Like, is this a personal thing? Is this some power play? What's his motivation?
Exactly. And it's not just like a couple of tweets. He went on to publish this whole guest editorial in Welt am Sonntag.
Oh, yeah, Welt am Sonntag, a well-respected German newspaper.
Exactly. And he's in there arguing that Germany is on the brink of collapse and defending the AfD's economic policies.
Wow, talk about making a statement.
I know.
And that statement actually caused a lot of controversy. Like, one of the editors at that newspaper resigned in protest.
Wow.
Just because they published the piece. So that tells you how seriously people are taking this whole situation.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so to recap, we have Schultz sounding the alarm about social media. We have Musk stirring the pot with his endorsements and a really tight election coming up.
Yeah, this is going to be close.
So let's jump into this Reddit thread and see what people are saying.
Okay, yeah.
What really stood out to you?
Well, honestly,
Yeah.
the reactions are all over the place.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's a total mixed bag. It's
Yeah.
like you're looking at all the public's fears and hopes about social media and elections.
Yeah, and there are definitely people who are like rolling their eyes at Schultz's plea. They're like, politicians trying to influence elections is nothing new.
Right.
Social media is just the newest tool in the game.
It's true. It has happened before.
But then you have other people who are genuinely worried.
Yeah.
And they're sharing stories about how social media is actually changing the way people they know see the world. Like, one user was talking about their mom,
Oh, wow.
who used to protest against these far-right groups. And now she's repeating the same rhetoric that she used to fight against.
Oh, wow.
It's like social media flipped a switch.
That is a powerful example of how persuasive some of this online stuff is.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole other conversation happening in the thread about the responsibility of these social media companies.
Oh.
The ones deciding what we see on our feeds every day. People are really grappling with the idea that algorithms might be shaping our opinions more than we even realize.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think that whole idea of echo chambers really hit home for me.
Right.
One user compared social media to being stuck in a room with a bunch of people who all agree with you. So you're never challenged, you're never exposed to different points of view.
Yeah, and that makes it the perfect place for misinformation to spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like those personalized news feeds are designed to keep us happy, even if what we're agreeing with is totally wrong.
Right.
And then you add in the targeted ads, and it's like a recipe for disaster.
It's kind of scary to think that my feed could be showing me totally different stuff than someone else's, even if we're on the same platform.
Yeah, and we might not even know.
Right.
It's this invisible hand guiding us towards certain things, certain products, even candidates.
So how do these algorithms even work? I mean, I know there are these complicated sets of rules, but what are they actually doing behind the scenes?
So every time you click like share or even just pause on a post, you're giving the algorithm information.
Oh, really?
It's like a detective building a profile about you, your interests, your anxieties, even your political leanings. And the more information it gets, the better it is at predicting what's going to keep you scrolling.
So it's almost like social media is learning how to push our buttons.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh,
And that's why it's so effective during elections. Campaigns can actually use these platforms to target specific people.
oh, wow.
It's not about sending a message out to everyone anymore. It's about making a specific message for each voter you know, playing on their hopes and fears.
I remember that whole Cambridge Analytica thing during the 2016 US election. Like, that was a wake-up call for sure. It showed how your personal data could be taken from social media and used to change how people vote.
Right. And it's only gotten more advanced since then. Now imagine this. An algorithm knows that someone likes the AFD.
Okay.
So it starts showing them stuff that makes them like the AFD even more and hides anything that goes against that.
So they're basically trapped in this echo chamber surrounded by stuff that just proves their own point.
Exactly.
That is worrying. So is there anything we can do about this? Like, how do we keep elections safe in this digital age?
That's the big question. I mean, there's no easy answer. Some people say that the only way to protect our elections is through some really strict rules. Hold these social media companies accountable. Make them fix this.
Right. But then who gets to decide what's misinformation? It seems like it could be dangerous to start censoring things.
Right.
Wouldn't that mess with free speech?
It's tricky. That's why other people think we need to focus on helping individuals.
Okay.
Like teach people how to spot fake news, evaluate where info is coming from, and understand how algorithms work.
So instead of censoring stuff, we teach people how to think for themselves.
Exactly.
But it feels like we're always catching up. Like, technology changes so fast, it's hard to keep up.
You're right. It's a constant race.
Yeah.
Here's an idea. What if things were more transparent? Like, shouldn't we know how these algorithms work?
Yeah, that makes sense. But wouldn't that force those tech companies to reveal their secrets? Like, their algorithms are how they make money, right? They're not just going to give that away.
True. But I think people are starting to realize that these algorithms aren't just about money anymore. They're having a huge impact on our world. And with that power comes responsibility.
So we've talked about the negative side of social media, and it can be a little depressing.
Yeah.
But we have to remember it's not all bad, right?
Of course not. Let's not forget that social media has helped a lot of social movements.
Right.
It has given a voice to people who aren't normally heard. Think of the Arab Spring uprisings, where platforms like Twitter and Facebook helped organize protests, or the Me Too movement, which used social media to expose harassment.
Yeah.
And don't forget about the pandemic.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Social media was a lifeline for people stuck at home.
It really was.
We could connect, share information, and support each other.
Yeah, it showed how powerful those technologies can be.
It all comes down to this. Social media is a tool. It's not good or bad on its own. It's about how we use it. And that means we all have a responsibility to be aware of how we use social media and to make sure we're using it to do good things, not bad things.
I feel like we're at a crossroads. Social media is such a big part of our lives now, and we're just starting to understand what that really means.
That's definitely an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And we need to be part of it. We can't just let the algorithms control what we see, think, and believe.
So a lot of what we've talked about is like really big picture stuff,
Yeah.
Algorithms, echo chambers, democracy. But how does this actually affect us in our everyday lives?
Right.
What can we actually do to deal with this, especially when it comes to elections?
Well, it starts with being more aware of what we do online. Every time you open your favorite social media app, it's like you're stepping onto a stage that's been set up just for you.
Okay.
Everything you see is designed to keep you interested.
Right.
But someone's directing that show behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the algorithm. It's always working to show you the things it thinks you want to see.
So how do we break free from that? I mean, I try to stay informed, but it's so easy to get sucked in and just keep scrolling.
I think it's about learning to be skeptical, but in an informed way.
Okay.
Don't just believe everything you see, especially during an election.
Yeah.
Ask yourself who's sharing this and why. What's their motivation? Is there another side to the story?
So it's not just about checking the facts, it's about understanding the whole context,
Right.
like the motivations and the biases behind what we're reading.
Exactly. You got to become like a digital detective. Follow the trail of information back to where it started.
Okay.
Look for signs that someone might be trying to manipulate you,
Mm-hmm.
like strong emotional language, misleading headlines, or stats that are cherry-picked.
I see.
But remember, being skeptical doesn't mean you have to reject everything.
Right.
It just means you look at things carefully and you're willing to dig a little deeper.
You keep mentioning media literacy. What does it actually look like to teach people these skills? Shouldn't this be something we learn in school?
Absolutely. Media literacy is so important in the digital age. We need to teach young people, and honestly everyone, how to understand the media, how information is made, shared, and sometimes manipulated.
So how would that work in a classroom?
Imagine a class where students learn how to spot different types of media, how to know if a source is credible, how to recognize bias, and how to understand the persuasive tricks used in advertising and politics.
That sounds great. And maybe even a lesson on how algorithms work?
For sure. It's important to understand how algorithms shape our online world. It's like lifting the curtain and seeing how everything works.
Yeah.
We need to give people the power to control their own digital lives instead of feeling like they're being controlled.
Okay, so we've talked about personal responsibility and education. But what about the social media companies? Don't they have a part to play in stopping misinformation, especially during elections?
More and more people are saying yes, they do. There's a growing movement for these companies to be more transparent and accountable. It's not okay for them to just say, we're just a platform, and not take responsibility. They have a duty to protect their users, and that means protecting our elections too.
So what could they actually do? What are some concrete steps?
Well, for one thing, they could be more open about how their algorithms work. I'm not saying they have to give away all their secrets, but they could give users more control over what they see. Like maybe give people the option to turn off personalized content or see a wider range of viewpoints.
What about labeling sponsored content? It's hard to know what's an ad and what's a real post these days.
Definitely. People need to know when they're being targeted by a campaign or a company. And then there's the issue of content moderation. Platforms need to be more proactive about taking down harmful stuff like hate speech calls to violence and things that are just plain false. But then who gets to decide what's harmful? It seems kind of subjective. And isn't there a risk of censorship if we give these companies too much power? It's a valid point, and it's a tricky balance. But I think we can moderate content fairly and openly. It involves having clear rules involving experts in the process and giving users a way to appeal if they disagree with the decision.
Sounds complicated.
It is. But this is important stuff. We're talking about our democracies, the way we talk to each other, the very fabric of our societies. We can't ignore it.
It can feel overwhelming, though. Like we're just caught in this digital storm and we can't control it.
I know what you mean. But it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. We have the power to shape this technology, to take back control, and to build a digital world that reflects what we believe in.
It's a big challenge, but I appreciate your optimism. It does feel like a turning point. Like we need to decide what kind of digital future we want.
Exactly. And it starts with awareness, education, and conversation. It's about asking tough questions, challenging what we think we know, and demanding better from these platforms that are such a big part of our lives now.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive. We've talked about everything from the elections in Germany to how algorithms work, exploring how social media, elections, and the future of democracy are all connected.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. But the main thing I want you to take away is this. We're not powerless. We have choices to make things we can do, and a responsibility to create the digital world we want to live in.
And if you're curious to learn more, keep digging. Look into the examples we've discussed about how social media affects elections. Research how people are trying to regulate online platforms. And most importantly, talk about these things with your friends, your family, your community.
The more we know, the better prepared we'll be to navigate this ever-changing digital world.
So the next time you're scrolling through your feed, remember this. You have the power to choose what you see, how you interact, and what kind of impact you want to have. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. Until next time.